going to a networking event and then following up through social media connects you at both of those levels.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you have some ideas too, Cheri, since you're the social media guru.
That was a good kickback on that, Nancy. You did well.
Well, I'm going to be honest and here because I love both as well. But I tended, because of where I started with my networking at first, was through, I worked in call centers. So I was always much more comfortable on the telephone, connecting with people and setting appointments for whoever I worked for. That's how we started our first company back in '98, was with me calling up businesses, building rapport, and getting them comfortable with who we were, and then setting the appointment for Richard to go see them. I was perfectly fine behind that phone.
You were great behind the phone.
And I remember when we joined our very first chamber, which is now the Melbourne Regional Chamber, gosh, back in '98.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Walking into that very first chamber event. Now, you know us. I was a lot skinnier then, and I was a lot. I hid behind Richard walking in. I was so afraid to step out and actually meet people face to face. And, it's amazing how many people are like that now. Those are the type of people I seem to connect with at networking events to help them kind of come out of that shell.
Yes, absolutely. Be able to just introduce them to one person a lot of times will get them out of the shell and get them starting the conversation. Sometimes it's hard to just get that conversation started.
It's not always easy. Well, what would you recommend someone that is a little nervous, they have not yet come to Toastmasters, to learn some of the three pillars to get a little bit more comfortable, and they're walking into, say they just joined the Chamber of Commerce. In fact, our chamber last evening had their, they call it Get Involved. It was kind of the new member orientation, but it's always also open to members that have been in the chamber but have really never come to a member orientation to meet others. So I love how they're expanding and allowing so many members to come together. But we had our after hours immediately after that last evening. And of course, the point of us doing the after hours right after the new member orientation is for us ambassadors to help them get connected with people there. Mm-hmm. But what would you recommend for those individuals that are just a little nervous to start meeting people? They don't know how to approach a group or maybe just a couple people talking. How can they feel comfortable kind of breaking the ice and talking to those people?
Well, a lot of times it's just basically asking someone to talk about their self. And, a couple of things that you can do to prepare before you go to a networking event will help you as well. You can ask the event sponsors if they have a list of prospective participants, and sometimes they'll be able to send you a list of the attendees. That way you can see what companies are going to be there, who you really want to talk to, and that way you can target someone so you'll know what your target is going to be, and you're not just randomly talking to people, because sometimes that's the hardest thing to do, is just talk to somebody that you have no connection with at all. Mm-hmm. You can also prepare a list of questions prior to the networking event. What do you want to learn? Who do you want to talk to? What questions would you have for somebody? What questions what would you like to learn from somebody? Those types of things. You can share your interests, your talents, your skills, accomplishments or goals, things like that. It's not always just about business networking, mm-hmm. but you can share person. That way you can get connected on a personal level with someone as well. So, asking people what their hobby is or what they enjoy doing after work or things like that, instead of just talking about business. And also being willing to listen, not just talking about yourself all the time, but just being willing to listen to someone as they share and give them time and really connect with them so that they know that you have an interest in what they are talking about, and just, be patient and develop rapport and connections. It's not always about how many people you talk to at a networking event, but making the right connections and talking to the right people. So you might talk to two people that are going to be phenomenal connections for you, rather than just running around the room and talking to everybody and not really understanding what each person does or how you can build that relationship. And then sometimes also just talking to someone about if they've had any challenges in their life. Is there anything that they need help with? If you can solve a pain point for someone, that's always a huge connection right there as well. And it could be not just business related, but on a personal level. If they need a car repair, or they need new child care or something like that. So connecting on that level always helps.
I like the sound of that. It's like letting them know that you're listening, for one, because people love it when people listen to them. I found that most everyone loves to talk about themselves. Who doesn't, right? And when someone is actually listening and asking you questions and paying attention, one seems to share.
Yeah,
more.
I like that paying attention that you just mentioned, because I'm a big one for eye contact. And when I'm talking to somebody and networking, I'm looking at them in the eyes, because that says I'm paying attention to you. And it tends to focus the conversation, because now they don't want to look away at somebody else in a networking event on that. But that's one of the ways I love doing that.
Yeah, and that's a very good sign to know if somebody is engaged in conversation, because if they're looking over your shoulder at other people at the event while you're talking, that's an immediate sign that they're not engaged. And the other body language sign that is an indicator that someone is not engaged in the conversation is if they have one of their feet turned out to the side, which means, I'm ready to leave this conversation.
Oh.
So,
you're getting ready to run.
Body language. So we have to watch body language too.
yes.
Oh, too much.
But then you know that person's not really engaged. You end the conversation, and then you move on to someone else. So.
Exactly. What are your thoughts about, people passing out their business cards to everybody without being asked, or their brochures? I mean, what's your take on that when they're a networking event?
Well, again, it's not about how many business cards you pass out, and if you're not making the connection. So when you give someone your business card, have a conversation first. Know if that's a person that's going to use your business card. And a lot of times, wait for them to ask for your business card. And if they're not asking for the business card, it's probably a very good indication that they're not interested in either the business or they're not making the connection. You can always offer and say, I'd like to give you my business card so that we can connect, again later. And it might be a better time for them. Maybe they're going, through something in their life at that point or something, which is why they're not engaged at that point. But it's not all about just going around and passing out business cards and having a big collection at the end of the night. It's really having the quality connections and building the relationships that's more important than the actual business card. In fact, with the Catch-22 theme that we came up with, it was the parable about give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, but teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. And it's the same thing. You can give somebody a business card, but if they don't have that connection, then it's not going to be a lifelong relationship.
That's such a great analogy that you put together there. Yeah, because it's all about communicating. It's all about reaching out and being able to, whether it's verbally or physically, just reach out and touch somebody. That's why shaking a hand to me is also very important, because you've made physical contact there, you've made emotional contact through the eyes, and then you've followed up with auditory, and now you're a big step forward in being able to work on a connection.
And the other thing too, the other hidden little-known benefit of Toastmasters is the networking opportunity that it provides, and this is another way that you can make those warm connections. And if you're not really comfortable calling up a large company and trying to get in the door to human resources or public relations or things, if you know that they have a corporate Toastmaster club and you're a member of Toastmasters, you can contact the organization, say USTA, for example, And you can contact them and say, I'm a fellow Toastmaster. I'd like to come and visit your club one day. And most clubs love to have new people come in as guest speakers because it's new energy, something different. It's not their same members. So that's always a perk for other clubs. And that way you can get your foot in the door. You can meet people that actually work there. They can put you in touch with the right people. So that makes that warm connection a lot of times. And so that's something that people don't realize is a huge benefit with Toastmasters is the networking opportunity that it has.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is when we plan our vacation this summer and we want to go up to the Tennessee mountains, it needs to be in a city that has a Toastmaster so we can write it off.
We got to get into Toastmasters first, so.
And they can be your concierge because they know all the cool things in the area.
There you go.
I love that. Well, I know that when I first started networking and really became comfortable with it is when I took the plunge and joined a group called Business Network International, known as BNI, and and I became the area director here. So all of a sudden I'm teaching networking, which had to get me out of my shell. And Toastmasters, there were so many individuals that were involved in Toastmasters that I met along the way in BNI, especially within the director arena. So I saw this working, to those of us in the leadership positions to get involved. And I have visited a few. I just have not taken upon myself to actually join Toastmasters. But it is something Richard and I have on our list this year to start visiting some local chapters here, since you and Scott have definitely sold us on it. But
and it's a great way to grow your network and grow your connections and meet some really quality people and just people that you would never have the opportunity to meet in your normal walk of life or your daily business connections.
Well, we're all about expanding our network and also expanding our skills and knowledge, as again we're always ever growing. And what I have found, especially through the years, and what brought me into social networking or the social media arena was the light bulb that went off when I first started seeing what someone can do with building relationships, from face-to-face networking to connecting with them on social media. As you said, I always give a tip as an ambassador with the chamber that now that you're here and you're connecting with people, you may not have an opportunity to get to another event for a month. Don't lose that momentum when you connect with someone here that you really are enjoying that conversation. You can't yet have that time to have a cup of coffee with them. Ask them, what platform are you most active on? And would you want to connect so that we can continue the conversation? That's how I see them working effectively.
Right, absolutely. And that's perfect suggestion and good advice to people because it's true, a lot of people only go to one or two events a month, so they may not see that person again for an entire month. So the social media makes that connection stay active through that month time frame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's so important. It's come up several times in our discussions here, but it's especially in the getting to know phase. You've met somebody face to face, or you've met somebody online, and then went to a Toastmasters. You have to continue the conversation. You have to get out there in front of people, so that you have the opportunity to begin building a basic relationship and let it grow organically from there. But I just love the way you said that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I know that a number of individuals that really just don't have that concept yet. Sometimes you just want to kind of pound them on the head. They're so intense coming into a networking event and just wanting to meet as many people as they can, take those collect those business cards, and they rush back to the office. They drop them in their newsletter list and start email blasting them. Ever have that happen?
Oh, yes.
And it is so frustrating because I guess the message I would love to get across to those that do that is to stop it. Just stop it. Because I think they're hurting themselves as being reputable